Hello everyone, use StatCrunch to do hypothesis test for variance and standard deviation. So first example I'm using is this supermodel example. You have the heights shown in this table and we want to know whether the height has a standard deviation that is less than 2.6 inch. And we use 0.01 significance level. First, we want to check whether those data are coming from the normal distribution. If you have your data here listed in the StatCrunch, you can go to Graph, QQ-plot, and you choose this column. You compute. You can get the quantile plot. You can see that those dots approximately lay on a straight line, so it's okay. You can proceed to the next step and do the hypothesis test. So for the hypothesis test, you go to Stat, Variance Stats, one sample, and we have data here. So with data, we select this column. And for the hypothesis test, we want sigma squared to be, so for this one, we only know the standard deviation, but we don't know squared, so we need to square this 2.6. Okay, so first we need to say, okay, what is 2.6 squared? So it is this value here. If you copy that value to be your variance here, oh sorry, yes, 6.76, and sigma square is the alternative hypothesis should be less than that. Okay, so it's smaller than. If you click compute, you can see the chi-square stat calculated here, and the p-value is here. It's 0.0003. So if you compare that with your alpha, which is 0.01, this p-value is smaller than the alpha. That means we need to reject the null hypothesis. And indeed, we have enough evidence to support that your standard deviation is less than 2.6. Okay, so that's first example. The second example I'm going to show you is a homework question. Homework 5.5, question number 1. Okay, so question number 1. So this one, it says we have a certain soda drink, simple random sample, which is good, 24 cans, and the volume is this, standard deviation is this 0.11 ounce. And they appear to be from a normally distribution, which is good. That means all the requirements for the hypothesis test are satisfied. And they want to know whether the standard deviation is less than 0.18 ounce, and use that significance level. Okay, so for this one, first we need to know what is the null and alternative hypothesis. Because the things they are interested in is whether the standard deviation is less than 0.18. So you know that the null hypothesis will always have the equal sign. So that should be sigma equal to 0.18. And each alternative hypothesis is standard deviation less than 0.18, which is the thing they are interested in the question. Okay, so you need to choose this B. Next, it asks you to compute the test statistic and get the p-value. Those two you can get from the StatCrunch. So in StatCrunch, if you go to stat, variance stats, one sample, this time with summary, because we only have the summary data. But for this one, it asks what is the sample variation? We only have the sample standard deviation. Sample standard deviation to be 0.11. Okay, so for the sample variance, we need to square that. So what we do is first go to this thing to calculate what is 0.11 squared. And it is showing in this new column here. And if you copy that number to be your sample variance, and the sample size is 24, hypothesis test, H naught sigma squared equal to this one should be 0.18 squared. So if you compute that using, say, 0.18 squared, you will know it's this number here. Okay. And the alternative hypothesis is we choose the less one. Okay. And with those things given, you click compute. You can see the chi-square statistics here. So you can copy this number as 1 in part B, and of course round to the 3 decimal place. So that's chi-square statistic. And for the p-value, it is here. Okay. You can copy this one as the p-value. And because this p-value is smaller than 0.025, which is alpha, we reject H naught because the p-value is less than or equal to the level of significance. In other words, we have sufficient evidence to conclude that this, I believe, is H1. Okay?